Hey everybody, welcome to Big Balls Fantasy Football, the show with powerful picks, sexy super fans, and that's really fun. I'm your host, 27-year fantasy veteran, Greg Reifstead.
And I'm your co-host, Jenilee, a 12-year fantasy veteran, and we're both very good Bears fans from Chicago, and together we are the beauty
and the beast
of fantasy football experts.
As she said, we're Chicago fans, and I don't adjust your television set. This isn't a baseball show, but I am wearing my baseball garb this week to celebrate the fact that the White Sox, 10 years ago this week, won the World Series for the first time in eons. So I just had to show my colors, and I was just so damn proud and so happy. It's World Series time, of course, with Kansas City and the Mets. Sorry, Cub fans. Sorry, Cub fans, but not really sorry, Cub fans, if you know what I mean.
Oh, whatever. Greg said he was going to root for the Cubs. He was rooting for the Cubs in the postseason.
I backed him. I didn't wear one lick of blue. Not one lick of blue.
Check his Facebook posts because I'm letting you guys know that he said he was rooting for the Cubs.
I was rooting for them, but I didn't wear their colors, so.
Well, we are both White Sox fans.
Yes.
I did not root for the Cubs because I'm a White Sox fan, but I don't have my hat on because I don't wear the hats on the show. But I do have a World Series hat. So, moving on, there was not a Bears game this week because the Bears were on a bye, so we don't have Bears info for you, but we have something else this week.
Yeah, well, we are in, let's give a little week, we are in week 8 of the NFL, and your bye week teams are the Bills, the Jaguars, the Eagles, and the Redskins, and, I mean, in that mix, there isn't a lot to miss. To be totally honest. I mean, you're going to miss a few wide receivers here and there. The Eagles are a fantasy mess. So you're not missing anything there. So what I wanted to do was something really fun, and I'm calling it our reality check segment. And we're halfway through the season already. We are halfway through fantasy, and I just wanted to have us each pick one player that you definitely need to go into your playoffs with. Go the rest of the season with, and then one player that you really need to dump now or he is just going to poison your lineup. So who's going first?
You are going to go first.
So, of course, the player you must have is Devontae Freeman. And sorry, Prost, you were dead wrong about him being a one-hit blunder because, God damn it, I picked him up, and he has been a stud 3 weeks in a row, 100 yards, every week for the last 3 weeks. I've just been loving life with him. You have to have him in your lineup every week. He has done well against good run defense. He's done well against bad run defenses. He's just unstoppable.
Yeah, he really is. Unfortunately, I think that you beat me last week in one of our leagues because of him mainly. I think he got a ton of points, and Greg had like 2 people that went off, and we talk about it, that's fantasy, it happens. Sometimes the other person has 2 people that go off, and that's the only reason they beat you, but I think he was one of them that went off for you.
He definitely was, and he has the Niners, the Colts, and Carolina all coming up on your schedule. Really bad run defenses. He's just going to lose his mind. Those are the weeks he'll get you 150 yards and a touchdown. The other weeks, he might just get you 100 yards and a touchdown, but you have to get him in. He's definitely a must-have. So who's your first must-have?
My first must-have is Jarvis Landry, the wide receiver of the Miami Dolphins, and he's definitely their clear-cut number 1 wide receiver. So he's a guy that was talked about a little bit in the preseason, but I don't think he got as much hype as he should have. I took him actually pretty early in drafts, earlier than maybe most people would have, but I'm definitely happy because I've been getting some points out of this guy. They use him in a lot of creative ways. They run him out of the backfield. He's also on punt returns, so if you get your yardage for that or he has already scored a touchdown in his punt returns, then you get the points for the touchdown. So what I like is that he already has a rushing touchdown. He has a couple receiving touchdowns and that punt return touchdown. So he's able to score for you in multiple ways. He does have 4 touchdowns and 1 2-point conversion on the season so far. And I really think that that number is going to go up and up and up because we've seen how Miami's played the last 2 weeks after Philbin's been fired. And it looks like Miami has a little light under their ass.
They sure do.
And they're actually playing like they're supposed to. So I expect that because Miami's playing much better, this guy's going to keep going off for you. So he's a guy that you have to put in your lineup. Even if you have two other good receivers and you stick him in your flex, he's got to be in there.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's more consistent than Richard is over on that team.
Oh, much more. And he's targeted more as well.
Definitely. I like that pick a lot. Excellent. So let's go on to our must dumps. And I am so pained to say this. I got on his ass earlier this season, and I never thought I'd have to say this again. And I had to finally do it this week. I finally had to do it, and I traded him out onto the waiver wire for one of the quarterbacks I'm going to give you in my beasting out picks this week. Sorry, Peyton. You got to go. I mean, the offense hasn't worked for you. Kubiak's offense hasn't worked for you. You're making all of the wide receivers suffer on the team in fantasy, too. They finally got the running game back with Hillman last week, but otherwise, it's just been a travesty there. Yes, Denver is undefeated. It's all defense. They're playing that style of football. If you have Denver's defense, you've been balling out. If you have their offensive players, you know exactly how I've been suffering. I took Peyton Manning early. I was stupid. He has not paid off. I mean, only 7 touchdowns on the year. Remember when he got 7 touchdowns in one game?
Oh, yeah.
In the opening game of the season. And we called it, you got Manning, and he lost his mind. Here's the one thing that will drive her crazy. 10 picks. 10 picks on 7 touchdowns? That's just disgusting. Peyton. Damn it. You know, weak arm. He's getting older. He should probably retire. And they should probably bring in Osweiler to run the team. But fantasy-wise and reality-wise, he needs to be dumped.
Yeah, and the thing is I thought he might retire after last season when they didn't make it to the Super Bowl.
Right.
I thought, he might call it quits, and then John Fox was gone, and that was another reason. It's like, do you think Manning really wants to go in with this whole new coaching and, scheme change? So I thought he would call it quits, and, he decided to come back, give it another try. And I would be surprised if this isn't his last year because without that defense, Denver would not be winning games by any means. And it does just look like he's old and it might be time to call it quits. So that's a good one to tell people to...
Pains me.
It's hard to let go, but sometimes you got to let go.
Peyton Manning is synonymous with good fantasy football, but not this season. So what's your first must dump?
So my must drop is running back Alfred Morris. Now, this is a guy that...
I smell something. It's Alfred Morris. He's on the screen. Oof.
This is a guy that I actually don't have in any of my leagues, and I stopped picking him up because all of my leagues I'm in are PPR. And I realized a couple years ago that even though at that point he was getting a lot of yards and he was getting you some touchdowns, they weren't really passing the ball to him, so that was killing me in PPR. But he used to get you a lot of yards and some touchdowns, so he used to be good for you, at least in standard leagues. But this year, he's not getting it done. He has one 100-yard game. That's it. We're through 7 weeks already, and that was in week 1, and he has 0 touchdowns on the season. And like we say, your players need to be getting touchdowns. They need to be getting in the end zone. That's where more of your points are coming from. He's only averaging 3.3 yards per carry, so his yard per carry average is horrible. And the Redskins are looking like they really like this kid, Matt Jones.
Yep.
They're using him a lot more, and they're using Chris Thompson on those passing downs. So it seems like the Matt Jones, Chris Thompson show over there a lot more, and they're letting Alfred run a little bit, but he's just not getting it done. So, they're leaning on those other 2 guys, and if you're not scoring touchdowns and you definitely can't get 100 yards a game, they're just, it's not good for fantasy. So I think he's a guy that now that we're 7 weeks in, I understand people that kind of rode him out just to see if something would happen.
Right here.
But at this point, I think you really just have to drop him and find another way to go.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I finally just got sick and tired of him because that's exactly it. no end zone. You don't belong on my team. And I mean that's what people are suffering if you went and drank the Eagles Kool-Aid too. None of their running backs are scoring touchdowns. They're getting you yards every week, sure, and maybe eking into that double digit area, but no touchdowns. You're losing those sevens. That's a lot of fantasy points.
Yeah, and I stayed away from them in the draft too, just because I knew that situation was going to be a bad running back by committee situation. And week to week, you were never going to know if you could play your guy, if he was going to get you points. So I stayed completely away from the Philly backfield in all of my drafts.
Yeah, I was talking with a few people over at the Tin Horn over here in Hollywood, and they all had running backs on the Eagles, and I'm like, get rid of them now. Just if we could have done 5 picks and we had the time, all of them would have been on there. Matthews, Sproles, blah 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 blah. Just give up hope. You need to dump them, and you need to pick up some people off the waiver wire or make some trades to get some people that you need. So the app. We have an app, and you need to go to it. You can go to the Google Play Store, or you can go to the Apple Store. And all of you that have the app know we are this close to hitting 100 people on the app, and we thank you all for downloading it, and it's been phenomenal. We give you all of those push notifications every week. Jenilee is on it like a hawk as far as all of the injuries, and we get on you for all of the player updates, who's being dumped, who's being waived, especially at this time of the season. Strangely, there are a lot of players that teams are getting sick of.
Well, we're approaching the trade deadline, so there might be some key trades happening out there.
And we're going to let you know first. I'll tell you one thing. I love every single week that I wake up at the crack of dawn, and so does Jenilee, and we beat Fox to having all of their player updates out there. So we get them to you before even you wake up. They're sitting on your phone waiting for you. So you get that as part of it. You also get, speaking of retro, Prost this week has a hilarious, fun little column this week in his blog. The blogs are only on the app. So you have Prost. He's a Packer fan, and he's talking about old school fantasy football. Back when I was doing it with him, we used to have to fax in our lineups. That's all I'm going to tell you. And then you people that don't know what a fax machine is, you're going to find it even more entertaining. Go check out, go download the app. Tell your friends to download the app and read that blog. And then, of course, we have Cash's blog that has your sleepers every week, and he has some really good sleeper picks this week. In fact, one of his sleeper picks is one of my picks this week.
Nice.
So we're all on the same page. Anything else you want to tell us?
No, you can always find us on social media still. We are all over Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can tweet us at BigBallsFBall. But, of course, you can reach everything through the app and our actual website, which is BigBallsFantasyFootball.com. So go to the website. That's our hub. Our app is our other hub. And you can find us everywhere on there.
And we just put up hot new pictures of Smash and of Jenilee up on the website. So go catch those. So who's going first this week with our picks?
Beasting Out is going to be first.
Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to Big Balls Fantasy Football. It's week 8 in the NFL and fantasy. I'm Greg the Beast. I'm here to give you 2 go hard and 2 go soft picks. 2 picks that are going to help you in your lineup this week. 2 picks that aren't going to help you quite as much. So I'm very excited about my first pick this week in Beasting Out. My go hard is, of course, Big Ben. He's been sitting on my bench ever since he got his leg rolled over by the goddamn Rams defense. And now he's finally back, and he has weapons now. That's why you need to get him in this week. For goodness sake, he finally has Martavis Bryant and Le'Veon Bell with him. Not on suspensions, not on injuries, nothing. The Steelers are going to be at full-blown power this week, and Big Ben's coming back all healed up. And I know there's a lot of rumors, he was supposed to come back last week, and is he going to come back this week? He has been in practice. Tomlin is saying he is the guy this week. So get him in your lineup. Um, Playing the undefeated Bengals, I know that's rough, and they have a tough defense. But before the injury, Big Ben had 4 touchdowns, no picks, and he had 2 weeks over 350 yards. I just think he's going to take on their defense, and I don't think he's going to shred them, but I think he's going to get you some damn good points. And with all the weapons that he has at his disposal, Wheaton as your, one of your secondary guys. You have Antonio Brown out there. You have a lot of weapons out there. Big Ben's back. Get him in your lineup. There's no reason not to. So my next go hard is a little bit of a weird one this week. It is Ryan Fitzpatrick. And as I talked about in the intro, I had to get rid of Peyton Manning, who I took early in my draft. But now I had to pick up Ryan Fitzpatrick off the waiver wire instead. Stats don't lie. And over 3 weeks, he's gotten 250 yards each week. He's gotten 2 touchdowns 5 out of the last 6 weeks. And if you go and look on Cash's blog, he's picking him as a sleeper. I don't even think he's a sleeper. I think he's a solid guy to get in your lineup. He's putting up numbers. That's who you drag off the waiver wire. He's just been sitting there waiting for you. This week, Fitzpatrick's playing the Raiders, who gives the 9th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. It's a great matchup. He's been doing well. And, of course, then you have the Jets' defense that have been playing outstanding. Great for field management, great for time management in the game. That always helps. Fitzpatrick is a good pick to put in your lineup this week. Go pick him up. So let's get on to the go-softs. We have Lamar Miller here, who I know lost his mind last week. I picked him up off the waiver wire, and he balled out for me last week off of the waiver wire. He went completely nuts, but unfortunately, he is playing against the Pats' run defense this week. Gives up the 10th fewest points to running backs. They've only given up 2 rushing touchdowns and only 1 100-yard game to running backs. So, yes, I know he sat out there on a lot of waiver wires because the whole Dolphin situation just sucked with the coaching. Philbin's out, the new coach is in, and he's going to use him. Unfortunately, this is just one of those weeks where it's a crappy week to play him. So even I am reluctant to play him. I might actually play him, but I'm not going to expect as many points out of him, and that's why we do our go-softs. We're not telling you not to play them, but we're telling you to be very reluctant. You're not going to get those double-digit points that you're expecting. So unless you really have to have him in your lineup, I would avoid putting Miller in. This is a shocker, I know, also. Yes, Aaron Rodgers. So, of course, he is playing in the biggest game of the week. You have undefeated Broncos against the undefeated Packers, and Rodgers is just coming off a bye week. I have him in one of my leagues, and I was like, wow, I'm so excited to get him back. Crap. He's playing against the Broncos D in this big marquee game on a Sunday night. This is what I like to call fantasy poison. It's going to suck. Both defenses have been playing very well. Yes, the Packers defense have stepped it up this season, and the Broncos D is giving up the least in the entire league, the least points to any fantasy quarterback. And that's going to also wear on the wide receivers you put in there, like Cobb and Adams. I just think this is going to be a grind of a game. Every single Denver game has been a grind, at least in the first half. You might get to eke something out in the second half, but I've watched every Broncos game. It's just been their defense is insane, and I think they're really going to give Rodgers fits. They caused 9 interceptions in 6 weeks. That's crazy. They've only allowed 5 passing touchdowns and only let, in 2 weeks out of the season, they've only let a quarterback go over 200 yards. So I think they're going to go lights out on Rodgers. Maybe in a non-PPR league, you might get maybe 15 points out of him. In a PPR league, you're talking 20s, and I know that sucks. You all rely on Rodgers, so it's not going to be a great week to put him in. I would keep him out. So that's my Beasting Out segment for this week. Let's go on to Jenilee and her Real Men picks.
I need a real man. Have you seen him?
Hi everyone, and welcome to week 8 in Fantasy Football Land and my Real Men segment. I have 2 go hard picks for you and 2 go soft picks for you this week. As always, I'm going to go ahead and get right into it and start with my go hard picks. These are the guys that are going to get you more points this week, especially based on their matchups. So my first go hard pick this week is wide receiver Kendall Wright of the Tennessee Titans. Now, I know this guy's been a little bit up and down this season so far. He's had a couple weeks that he's gotten you a lot of points, a couple weeks you've been disappointed with him. But this is a very good matchup for him this week because he plays against the Texans defense. Now, not only does he play against the Texans defense, but he has the most targets on the team out of all the wide receivers, and he also has the most touchdowns on the team out of all the wide receivers. So he's their clear-cut number 1. He is the guy that they're going to over there in Tennessee, and he's been getting in the end zone at least a little bit. I know Tennessee is not a very high-scoring team, but he is the guy that's targeted and is getting some touchdowns. Now, speaking of the Texans defense, I don't know if any of you watched them play Miami last week, but the Texans defense was lost. Can any of you find them? I don't even know if they're going to be found by this week. It was absolutely horrible to watch. They have given up 10 touchdowns to wide receivers so far this season, and they were missing tackles left and right. It was just ugly to watch. The secondary could not tackle anyone. They couldn't get anyone on the ground. And this is why it's a good matchup for Kendall Wright, is he is a speedy guy. He's a fast guy. And I have a feeling he's going to be running right by that secondary very easily. They give up an average of 37 fantasy points per week to wide receivers. So out of 37 points, I think Kendall Wright can easily get you 15 and maybe upward toward the 20-point mark. This is just a good matchup to get him in your lineup. He should be good for you this week. Let me move it on to my second go hard pick. My second go hard pick this week is quarterback Eli Manning of the Giants. And I know he's been a little bit up and down as well, but he's playing against the Saints this week. Now, he does have 11 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions on the season. So what I like is he's really taking ownership of this offense. He seems much more comfortable in this offense than he did the last couple years. Seems like he has it down pat, and he definitely has some good wide receivers over there, we know, to work with. Like I said, he's playing against the Saints, and even though he slumped in the last couple weeks, those were division games. Those are the games that we tell you can very often be fantasy poison. So those were games that he didn't do very good, but don't worry about it because he's playing the Saints. I say you can expect easily over 200 yards from him passing, more up around the 250, 300-yard mark, and I think 2 to 3 touchdowns will be guaranteed by him. The Saints give up an average of 276 passing yards per game, and they've also given up 14 passing touchdowns on the season already. So I think Eli's going to be just fine in this game. He's going to bounce back, and I think Odell Beckham as well is going to bounce back this week for you all. So make sure to get Eli in your lineup this week. Now let me move it on to my Go Softs. These are the guys that I don't expect as many points from this week, and bear with me because my picks are maybe a little bit surprising this week for you guys. My first Go Soft for you guys this week is tight end Jimmy Graham. And I know this one's a little bit of a shocker because it's Jimmy Graham and there's not a ton of good tight ends out there, but I don't like his matchup this week. He's going against the Cowboys this week. And before I get to his matchup, let's just look at what he's done this week touchdown-wise so far. This year he has 2 touchdowns so far. In 2014, he had a total of 10, and in 2013, he had a total of 16 touchdowns. So if you look at it this season, he's really only on pace for about 5 to 6 touchdowns because we're pretty much halfway through the season this far. I know he was with the Saints those years. He's with the Seahawks now, which is a totally different offense, as we know. But he plays up against those Cowboys, and the Cowboys give up the 4th fewest fantasy points to tight ends. They've actually only given up 1 touchdown to tight ends so far this year. So tight ends are not getting touchdowns against them. And Gronk is the only tight end to have more than 35 yards receiving against this Cowboy defense. So they are just really sticking it to these tight ends. And the tight ends aren't getting you yards against the Cowboys, and they're definitely not getting you touchdowns against the Cowboys. Another thing you just have to keep in mind is that the Seahawks offensive line is not playing very well. Russell Wilson doesn't have a lot of time to throw. He's running around. So that just makes the offense have a tough time passing the ball down the field. And they're just not throwing to Jimmy Graham as much as when he was with the Saints, obviously. So he's not a guy to put in your lineup this week. I don't like the matchup for sure. They are not playing in Seattle. They are playing in Dallas. That definitely makes a difference for the Seahawk offense as well. So go ahead, get someone else in your lineup at tight end for this week. And my last go soft for the week is wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins of the Texans. Again, this one's a shocker because if you look at his numbers this year, his numbers have been great. And you're thinking, what the heck are you telling me to take him out of my lineup for? Well, this is why. He plays the Titans defense. Now, the Titans defense has only given up 6 touchdowns to wide receivers, and they've only had 1 wide receiver that has gone for over 100 yards against them. So they're doing a pretty good job holding wide receivers out of the end zone, and wide receivers are not getting a ton of yards on these Titans either. They're the 2nd best pass defense in the league. They are allowing under 200 yards passing per game. So quarterbacks aren't even throwing for over 200 yards. And let's just talk about this. DeAndre Hopkins is the Texans' best weapon. They don't have a lot of weapons over there. So if I was the Titans' defense, he'd be double covered on pretty much every single play. I think they have to give him attention. The Texans don't have a lot of other people to go with. So they're going to throw double coverage his way. He's not going to be the one getting open. Some of the other not as good wide receivers are going to be the ones getting more open. But this is just an ugly game. It's a division matchup. And, of course, you have Brian Hoyer as the quarterback down there in Texan land. So you don't even have the best quarterback throwing to this guy. It's just a bad matchup because the Titans defense is doing very good against the pass this year. And they're going to have all eyes on this guy. So those are my picks for this week. And we have a special segment for you guys. We have a segment by Cash, a fan segment. And he was actually at the Chiefs-Bears game in which the Bears got a W. And he had a lot of fun. So he has awesome footage for you guys. And let's go check out how he enjoyed that game.
Hi, this is Cash Khan reporting from Big Balls Fantasy Football. On my left, you will see Kauffman Stadium, and on my right, you'll see the Arrowhead where the Chiefs are playing our beloved Chicago Bears. Go Bears! We'll bring home a victory today. There is an incredible turnout of Bears fans in orange and blue all across. You can see the tailgating going on, and people still filtering in. It's about an hour before game time. Go Bears!
I'm from DuBois, Idaho, 1,200 miles to get here.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! And the keys to the game is Cutler's got to not turn the ball over, and I think they got a chance to win this.
How about you?
That's about it. Defense got to step it up. They've kind of proved it the last couple of games, but they're kind of working at it. But defense steps up, and again, Cutler doesn't turn the ball over. They'll win it.
Gotcha.
My name is Dan. I was born in Iowa City, Iowa. Bears are my number 1 team. The Chiefs were really close number 2. I've met Walter Payton. I've shook his hand. I have his autograph. But you know, Kansas City and Chicago are very close to each other.
Yeah.
So I love both of them. I live in Kansas City now.
Awesome.
So I got to support both. I was torn this morning what I was going to do.
Yeah. Final score predictions.
I'm going to go 21-14. The Bears.
The Bears. Awesome.
Georgia, number 17, Chris Conley. And tackle from Oklahoma, number 79, Donald Stevenson. And guard from Auburn, number 66, Ben Brown. Alex Smith. Let's hear it for your Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, sing just that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the
This is Cash Khan of Big Balls, Fantasy Football. Unbelievable game here at Arrowhead. Bears down, look like they're out of it. Cutler brings them back. They outscored the Chiefs in the second quarter and put us, defense plays great. Here we are, victorious, the Bears.